Welcome back to today's journey, where we step into the heart of Scotland to explore a place that holds both history and mystery. Towering above the city of Edinburgh, standing proudly on its volcanic rock foundation, lies Edinburgh Castle, a fortress that has watched over the land for more than 1,000 years. For centuries, it has been a witness to battles, political struggles, and countless untold stories. But beyond its stone walls and breathtaking views, the castle is also known for something far less ordinary. It is often described as one of the most haunted places in all of Europe. The very idea of a castle on a rocky cliff immediately sparks the imagination. Its silhouette against the sky feels almost timeless, as if the past is still alive within its walls. Visitors who come during the day may marvel at its architecture, its grand halls, and the treasures of Scottish heritage. Yet when the sun sets, and shadows stretch across its towers, the atmosphere begins to shift. The air feels heavier, the silence deeper, and the thought lingers that perhaps we are not entirely alone in this ancient fortress. The reputation of Edinburgh Castle as a place of restless spirits did not come overnight. It was built layer by layer, not only with stone but with history, some of it filled with triumph, and some with tragedy. Wars were fought at its gates, prisoners were held in its depths, and generations of men and women walked its passageways, leaving behind fragments of their lives. These fragments, many believe, are not forgotten. They live on in the form of whispers, strange sounds, and unexplained sightings. For travelers drawn to the mysterious, the castle has become a magnet. Guided tours highlight not only the proud legacy of Scotland but also the eerie experiences that countless visitors have reported. Some claim to feel sudden chills in rooms where no wind should enter. Others describe faint lights flickering in the dark, or even the soft echo of footsteps following them along the corridors. Such accounts have turned Edinburgh Castle into a legend among ghost enthusiasts and history lovers alike. But what makes this castle stand out is not just the number of stories. It is the sheer atmosphere of the place. Imagine standing within walls that have endured centuries of conflict, listening to silence that feels alive with memory. Every stone seems to carry a story, and every shadow might hide a trace of the past. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, there is no denying the powerful aura that surrounds the fortress. Tonight, we will journey into that aura. We will uncover why this castle, more than many others, has earned its chilling reputation. From soldiers and prisoners to mysterious figures said to roam the grounds, Edinburgh Castle invites us to step beyond history books and into the realm of legend. So, settle in as we open the gates to one of Europe's most haunted sites, Edinburgh Castle. Rising high above the city of Edinburgh, the castle rests upon Castle Rock, a dramatic volcanic cliff that makes the fortress seem both unreachable and eternal. This location was not chosen by chance. For thousands of years, Castle Rock has been a place of strategic importance, offering wide views of the surrounding land and a natural defense against enemies. Long before the stone towers and battlements we see today, this site was already significant, used by ancient tribes and later by early kings of Scotland. Standing at the base and looking upward, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe. The fortress appears almost to grow out of the rock itself, as though nature and human hands joined together to create a structure meant to endure time. It is a landmark recognized across Scotland, a proud emblem of resilience and identity. From royal ceremonies to bloody battles, from grand celebrations to dark imprisonments, Edinburgh Castle has absorbed every emotion of the people who crossed its gates. Castle Rock itself holds as much story as the fortress. Geologists tell us that it was formed by volcanic activity millions of years ago. A solid core of basalt shaped by glacial movement. But to those who walk the cobblestones today, the rock feels more than geological, it feels alive with echoes of the past. It is said that even the ground beneath the castle has soaked up centuries of footsteps, carrying with it an energy that some describe as heavy, almost magnetic. Throughout history, the castle has been a centerpiece in Scotland's struggles for independence and power. It witnessed sieges during the Wars of Scottish Independence. And it served as a royal residence for monarchs who shaped the nation's destiny. Kings and queens held court within its halls, made alliances, and faced betrayals. Each era left marks not just in records but also in atmosphere. Visitors sometimes remark that when walking through the Great Hall or gazing across the battlements, they feel the weight of all those moments pressing down. As if time itself lingers in the air. For the people of Scotland, Edinburgh Castle is more than an old structure, it is a symbol. It represents endurance through conflict, a reminder of heritage, and a link between past and present. Tourists arrive expecting history. And indeed they find it, the crown jewels, the stone of destiny, and the monuments to Scotland's warriors. But often, they also encounter something unexpected. A chill breeze that seems out of place. A sudden sense of being watched. Perhaps even the faint sound of a drum or a whisper carried on the wind. It is in this merging of natural wonder, human history, and unexplained mystery that Castle Rock becomes more than a hill of stone. It becomes the very stage upon which Scotland's legends unfold. The rock lifted the castle high above the city, but it also anchored centuries of untold stories, both noble and haunting. And so, as we explore further, we begin to see why this landmark is not only historic but also one of the most compelling places where history and the supernatural meet. As we move deeper into the story of Edinburgh Castle, it is impossible to ignore the centuries of conflict, politics, and shifting power that shaped not only the fortress itself but also the very identity of Scotland. Few places in Europe have seen as many battles, betrayals, and bold struggles for survival as these walls of stone. Every tower, every courtyard, every gate seems to carry the weight of history etched into its very foundation. For generations, the castle was more than just a royal residence, it was the key to controlling Scotland. Whoever held Edinburgh Castle controlled the heart of the kingdom. This made it a prize worth fighting for, and so it became the focus of endless wars. During the Wars of Scottish Independence in the 13th and 14th centuries, the fortress changed hands multiple times. Armies clashed at its gates, and its halls echoed with the sounds of triumph and despair. One of the most dramatic episodes was the capture of the castle by Thomas Randolph, Earl of Moray, in 1314. With daring strategy, his men scaled the cliffs at night and reclaimed the stronghold for Scotland, a story still remembered with pride. But military conflict was only part of the castle's turbulent history. Political intrigue filled its chambers just as much as weapons filled its armory. Kings and queens resided within its walls, often surrounded by plots, alliances, and betrayals. Mary, Queen of Scots, gave birth here to her son James VI, who would later unite the crowns of Scotland and England. Yet her reign was marked by scandal, division, and sorrow, emotions that seemed to linger long after she departed. Some visitors whisper that her presence can still be felt in certain corners of the castle, as though her struggles left an imprint too deep to fade. The castle also served as a prison for both foreign captives and rebels against the crown. In its dungeons, French soldiers, pirates, and even American prisoners from the War of Independence were held. These underground cells were dark, cold, and merciless, places where survival was uncertain. Those who suffered there left behind a legacy of pain. And many believe their voices still rise in the silence, carried by the stone walls. The idea of these restless souls adds another layer of unease to the fortress. Especially when one remembers that these prisoners were far from home, many never to see freedom again. And then, there is the castle's role in more modern conflicts. It became a military base, an arsenal, and a symbol of national pride. Cannons like the famous Mons Meg were not only weapons but also warnings of power. Even today, a tradition continues, the firing of the 1 o'clock gun, a daily echo across the city that connects the present with the castle's martial past. Tourists may cheer at the sound, but for some, it resonates like a reminder of the many times when cannon fire marked battles rather than ceremonies. Through all these centuries, wars, politics, triumphs, and defeats, the castle endured. And with endurance comes memory. Some say the very stones remember the cries of soldiers, the whispers of conspirators, the groans of prisoners. Perhaps it is this dense layering of history, both glorious and grim, that fuels the stories of hauntings. Because when a place has seen so much life and death, so much hope and despair, it is easy to imagine that the energy of the past never truly leaves. Edinburgh Castle is, therefore, not just a silent monument. It is a living archive of Scotland's struggles and victories, and for many, it is also a gateway into the unknown. To stand within its walls is to feel history pressing in from all sides, reminding us that the past is never as far away as we think. Beneath the grandeur of Edinburgh Castle lies a hidden world few visitors ever see, a network of dark, narrow tunnels carved deep into castle rock. These underground passages, once used for defense, secret movement, and imprisonment, have become the center of some of the castle's most chilling legends. To walk through them is to step away from daylight and enter a space where silence, shadows, and stories of the past seem to press in from every direction. For centuries, the tunnels served practical purposes. Soldiers moved through them unseen, prisoners were confined within their cold walls, and supplies were secretly transported during sieges. But over time, the practical gave way to the paranormal. Those who dared to venture below began reporting strange sensations. Sudden drops in temperature, whispers echoing where no one stood, and the unnerving feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. One of the most famous stories is that of the lone piper boy. Long ago, he was sent into the tunnels with his bagpipes, instructed to play as he walked so that people above could trace the path of the passages. The music drifted upward at first, guiding listeners through the rock. But then, without warning, the sound stopped. Searchers went below but found no trace of the boy. He was never seen again. To this day, many claim to hear the faint sound of bagpipes rising from beneath the castle, as though the boy still wanders, lost in the labyrinth. The tunnels are also said to echo with the pain of prisoners who suffered within them. During Scotland's turbulent wars, captives were held in underground chambers, often in terrible conditions. With little food, no light, and little hope, many perished in those depths. Some visitors describe hearing groans, the clanking of chains, or footsteps shuffling in the darkness, sounds they insist do not come from fellow tourists or guides. Even the city of Edinburgh has been touched by these tales. Local folklore suggests that the tunnels stretch beyond the castle grounds, connecting to hidden parts of the old town. Some entrances were sealed long ago, but stories remain of figures in period clothing appearing briefly in nearby streets before vanishing into thin air, as if emerging from a secret passage that no longer exists. For those brave enough to join the castle's ghost tours, the tunnels are often the highlight and the most unsettling part of the journey. Guides lead visitors into dimly lit corridors, pointing out areas linked to unexplained phenomena. Guests describe sudden chills, cameras malfunctioning, or even the feeling of an invisible hand brushing against them. While skeptics may dismiss these as tricks of the mind, many leave with a lingering sense that something in the depths does not rest easily. What makes these stories so powerful is the combination of history and mystery. The tunnels are real. Their walls did witness suffering, fear, and secrets. And in that silence, it becomes easy to imagine echoes of the past lingering like shadows that refuse to fade. Whether one believes in spirits or not, stepping into the underground world of Edinburgh Castle is an experience that blurs the line between fact and legend. The tunnels remind us that beneath every fortress of stone lies another story, one carved in darkness, remembered in whispers, and carried forward in the chill of the air. For many, that is what makes Edinburgh Castle not just a historic site but a place where the past feels alive, waiting to reveal itself in unexpected ways. Deep beneath Edinburgh Castle, the tunnels and dungeons tell perhaps the darkest part of its long history. While the grand halls above echoed with royal ceremonies and the clash of politics, the underground chambers became places of silence, suffering, and despair. It was here that prisoners of war, rebels, and even common criminals were confined, often left to face a fate far harsher than the battles raging outside. These stone cells were cramped, damp, and without light. Food was scarce, water was limited, and hope was nearly non-existent. Many prisoners, captured during Scotland's wars with England or taken from battles across the seas, found themselves trapped here with little chance of survival. Some lasted only days, others weeks, before hunger and exhaustion overcame them. To imagine the darkness of those chambers is to picture a place where time slowed to a painful crawl, where every sound of footsteps above was a reminder of a freedom they would never touch again. Among the most haunting stories are those of prisoners starved slowly in the depths. Left with little food or even none at all, they endured the final days of their lives in silence, their cries muffled by the thick walls of stone. It is said that their suffering was so intense, so overwhelming, that their spirits never found peace. Visitors who enter these underground passages today sometimes speak of feeling a sudden weight in the air, a pressure that seems to squeeze the chest, as if echoing the hopelessness of those who once perished there. Legends grew from these tragedies. Some tourists and staff have reported hearing faint voices, soft moans, or even desperate whispers though no one was there. Others claim to have seen fleeting shadows that move along the walls, shapes that vanish the moment they are approached. Whether these experiences are the power of imagination or something more, they have helped shape the castle's enduring reputation as one of the most haunted places in Europe. History records that during the 18th and 19th centuries, prisoners from many lands were brought to Edinburgh Castle. Captives from the American War of Independence, French soldiers from the Napoleonic Wars, and sailors accused of piracy all found themselves in the same fate. To be far from home, locked in darkness, and without hope of release must have deepened the sense of despair. It is perhaps no surprise that many believe the energy of those lives still lingers in the stone chambers, carried forward into the present day. Even modern visitors, stepping into these preserved dungeons, often describe a chill that feels different from ordinary cold. Tour guides tell of tourists who refuse to stay long, claiming that the atmosphere is simply too heavy. Some leave with goosebumps, others with an unshakable feeling that they were not alone, even when the group was small and the corridors were empty. These stories do not just serve as frightening tales. They are reminders of the human cost hidden within the castle's proud exterior. The grandeur above hides a history of struggle below, and together they create a contrast that makes Edinburgh Castle so compelling. It is both a monument to victory and a memorial to those who suffered unseen. And perhaps that is why, when people speak of restless spirits in these tunnels, their words carry a strange kind of respect. Because behind the mystery lies a truth: the prisoners who starved and faded in these dungeons left a mark too deep for time to erase. Their stories continue not only in history books but in the very air of the castle, whispering to those who are willing to listen. As we reflect on the prisoners who met their end in the castle's underground chambers, a question naturally arises: did their stories truly end there? Or did something remain behind? Many who have explored the dungeons and tunnels of Edinburgh Castle insist that the past is not silent. They believe that the spirits of those who suffered have lingered, leaving traces of themselves in ways both subtle and unsettling. Visitors describe strange experiences that seem to defy explanation. Some speak of hearing cries echoing faintly through the stone walls, sounds too soft to be tourists, too eerie to be dismissed as mere imagination. The cries are often described as distant, like a whisper carried from another time, fading in and out as if the castle itself is breathing. Others claim to see shadows darting along the corridors, quick flickers of movement that vanish the moment they are noticed. These shadows, some say, resemble the forms of people: a figure hunched over, a soldier standing watch, or even the faint outline of someone reaching out before dissolving into darkness. One story that resurfaces time and again is of a guard who, while patrolling the dungeons late at night, heard the unmistakable sound of chains clinking. Thinking someone had broken into the area, he followed the sound, only to find an empty corridor. Yet the sound continued, moving just ahead of him, until suddenly it stopped. When he reported this incident, he discovered that other guards before him had heard the very same noise in the very same place. Even during guided ghost tours, participants have felt an unseen presence. Some recall sudden chills wrapping around them, while others felt a hand brush lightly against their shoulder, only to turn and find no one there. Photographs taken in the tunnels have occasionally revealed strange orbs of light or misty shapes, adding fuel to the belief that something beyond the ordinary moves within these walls. What makes these stories even more compelling is their consistency. Over the years, countless people from castle staff to tourists from around the world have reported similar sensations in the same locations. The vaults beneath the castle, the chambers that once held prisoners, and the long passages connecting them seem to carry the strongest energy. Those who are sensitive to atmosphere often describe a heaviness in the air, as if stepping into an invisible cloud of memory. Skeptics, of course, argue that such feelings come from suggestion or the natural unease of being in a dark, confined space. The tunnels are cold, damp, and echo easily, they point out. Shadows shift with candlelight, footsteps reverberate, and the imagination fills in the gaps. But for many others, these explanations fall short. The details in the reports, the specific sounds, the recurring sightings, the personal reactions feel too vivid to dismiss entirely. Whether one believes in spirits or not, what is undeniable is the effect these stories have on those who visit. The knowledge that cries have been heard, that shadows have been seen, and that unseen presences have been felt transforms the experience of the castle. It is no longer simply a historic site but a living, breathing story where the line between past and present is blurred. The lingering spirits of Edinburgh Castle, if they do exist, remind us that places of great suffering do not easily release their memories. The castle is not only a fortress of stone but also a keeper of echoes, holding on to the voices of those who once walked its halls. And as the cries and shadows continue to be reported, the legend of Edinburgh Castle grows ever stronger, drawing in those who seek not only history but also the mysteries that history leaves behind. Among the many legends tied to Edinburgh Castle, few are as well known or as chilling as the story of the ghostly drummer boy. This tale has echoed through the centuries, weaving itself into the very identity of the fortress. Unlike many hauntings that inspire fear or sorrow, the drummer boy's appearances are seen as omens, warnings of danger approaching, a spectral signal that the castle is about to face conflict. The earliest recorded sightings date back hundreds of years. During times of unrest, when Scotland was frequently under threat of attack, guards and townspeople alike claimed to hear the rhythmic beat of a drum rising from within the castle walls. The sound was said to grow louder and clearer as danger drew nearer, almost like a battle call echoing across time. Strangely, no one ever saw the drummer himself in those moments, only the unmistakable sound of the drum. It was not until later that witnesses began reporting the figure of a young boy. He was described as small, no more than a child, often dressed in old-fashioned military clothing. Most unsettling of all, some accounts insisted that he appeared without a head, as if his tragic fate in life followed him even into the afterlife. Yet despite this eerie detail, the boy's presence was not thought to bring harm. Instead, he was seen as a silent messenger, a ghostly guardian of the castle who signaled that its people should be ready. One famous account tells of the drummer being heard just before an attempted invasion. The sound of the drum was said to echo through the night, alerting those inside the fortress. Though no enemy soldiers were spotted at first, scouts soon discovered that an attack had indeed been planned. For many, this incident cemented the belief that the ghostly drummer was more than just a legend. He was a protector who appeared in times of need. Visitors today sometimes ask if the drummer boy still makes himself known. While reports are rare in modern times, there are still stories from castle staff and tour guides of faint drumming being heard late at night when the grounds are quiet. Some even claim that the sound has been captured faintly in recordings made during paranormal investigations, though skeptics argue it could simply be the echo of footsteps or the carrying of noise from the city below. Regardless of belief, the legend continues to capture the imagination. There is something deeply haunting about the idea of a child caught in the turmoil of war, doomed to wander forever with his drum. Perhaps he represents the countless young lives touched by conflict, or perhaps he is simply a story passed down to remind us of the castle's violent past. But whether real or symbolic, the drummer boy has become one of the most enduring figures tied to Edinburgh Castle. When tourists walk through the cobbled courtyards or stand on the battlements overlooking the city, some say they can almost imagine the sound of a drum rolling softly in the wind. The thought lingers, is it just imagination, or could the ghostly boy still be keeping watch, ready to sound his warning once more? The tale of the drummer boy adds another layer to the castle's reputation as a place where history and mystery meet. It reminds us that within the stone walls are not only stories of kings and queens, but also the whispers of forgotten lives that may still find a way to make themselves heard. The legend of the ghostly drummer boy might sound like a tale locked in the pages of history, but what makes it enduring is that people still report hearing his drum beats even in modern times. Tourists, castle staff, and even paranormal researchers have described moments when the faint, steady rhythm of a drum echoed through the ancient courtyards despite no musicians being present. These experiences keep the story alive, making it one of the most intriguing mysteries of Edinburgh Castle. Many visitors describe the sound as distant yet clear, a soft rolling beat that seems to come from nowhere in particular. Sometimes it appears to rise from beneath the ground, as if carried upward through the tunnels. Other times, it drifts on the wind, weaving through the castle's towers before fading suddenly into silence. What unsettles most witnesses is that the sound never lasts long enough to trace its source. It begins without warning and disappears just as mysteriously, leaving only puzzled faces and a sense of unease. Guides leading evening tours often recount their own encounters. One reported that during a late-night visit, his group froze when the unmistakable tap of a drum resonated from the darkened courtyard. The sound was rhythmic, deliberate, too precise to be dismissed as random noise. Yet when they searched, no one was there. The group left shaken, convinced they had brushed against something beyond explanation. Some tourists have even claimed to capture the drumming on audio devices. In one instance, a recording intended to document a tour instead picked up a faint but steady beat in the background. The group recalled that no instruments were present, and no one remembered hearing the sound at the time. It was only later, upon playback, that the drumbeat revealed itself. Skeptics argue that this could have been interference or background noise carried from the city, but for believers, it was yet another piece of evidence pointing to the presence of the drummer boy. What makes these reports especially compelling is their consistency. Accounts of drumming have been collected across decades, from people of all ages and nationalities. While each description varies slightly, some say the sound was loud and urgent. Others recall it as faint and ghostly. The core detail remains the same, a drum, beating in rhythm, with no visible source. Some historians suggest that the memory of the drummer boy has become so strong that it influences people's imaginations. In a castle already steeped in tales of hauntings, visitors may be primed to interpret unexplained sounds as paranormal. Yet even those who arrived as skeptics, uninterested in ghost stories, have left with shaken expressions after claiming to hear the drumming for themselves. For the city of Edinburgh, these modern accounts are not just curiosities, they are part of the castle's living legend. They draw tourists from around the world who come not only to see the crown, jewels and the grand halls, but also to feel the shiver of standing where history and mystery collide. Each new report adds another thread to the tapestry of the castle's lore, ensuring that the drummer boy remains one of its most enduring figures. As long as visitors continue to hear those distant beats, the question lingers: is it simply the power of suggestion, or is the drummer still keeping watch, warning of dangers unseen? Whatever the truth, the sound of his drum has become more than just a ghost story. It is a reminder that the castle, with all its grandeur, is also a place where the past refuses to be silent. While the legend of the drummer boy captures much attention, Edinburgh Castle is also famous for another type of haunting: spectral guards and ghostly soldiers who seem unwilling to leave their posts. For centuries, the fortress has been a stronghold of military power, a place where battles were fought, armies were stationed, and countless lives were dedicated to defense. Perhaps it is no surprise that the figures most often reported on the castle grounds are those of men in uniform, continuing their eternal watch. Visitors have described seeing shadowy figures standing at attention near the battlements, as if still guarding the city below. These apparitions are often reported at night, when the castle grows quiet and the streets of Edinburgh fall into silence. The forms appear suddenly, sometimes no more than a faint outline, and vanish just as quickly. Witnesses say the figures are unmistakably military and bearing straight-backed motionless, their presence both commanding and eerie. One of the most famous tales involves a group of tourists who, while exploring the castle's chambers, noticed what they thought was a costumed reenactor in full uniform. The figure stood silently in a corner, watching them. But when they turned to speak to their guide, the figure was gone without a sound, without a trace. No reenactors had been present that day. The group left convinced that they had encountered one of the castle's ghostly guards. Soldiers have also been reported marching across the parade ground, their boots striking stone in perfect rhythm, only for the sound to fade into the air. Some accounts describe hearing the metallic clink of weapons, or the low murmur of men's voices carried on the wind. These experiences create the impression that parts of the castle are still alive with military drills, though centuries have passed since those days of constant readiness. The hauntings are not limited to sight and sound. Some visitors say they have felt sudden gusts of icy air near the areas once used as barracks, even on still days. Others recount a heavy presence, as if someone were standing close behind them, watching with unseen eyes. A few have even claimed to smell the faint scent of gunpowder, despite no weapons being fired for generations. Historians suggest that the sheer number of soldiers who lived, fought, and died in connection with the castle may explain why their presence feels so strong. From medieval knights to modern regiments, countless men passed through these walls, some never leaving alive. The memory of their loyalty and sacrifice may live on in more ways than history books alone can preserve. Skeptics argue, of course, that these reports are fueled by imagination, influenced by the castle's atmosphere and reputation. Shadows cast by torchlight, echoes in the stone corridors, or even the trick of a restless mind can create the illusion of figures that are not really there. Yet the persistence of the stories, repeated year after year by visitors from around the world, keeps the mystery alive. For many who come to Edinburgh Castle, the possibility of seeing these ghostly guards adds to the thrill. Standing on the parade ground at dusk, gazing up at the towers, one can almost imagine the soldiers of the past still standing watch. Whether they are guardians who refuse to leave their posts, or simply memories imprinted on the fortress by centuries of warfare, their presence adds to the castle's powerful aura. Edinburgh Castle is a place where history marches on in many forms. In the silent courtyards, in the chill of the night air, and in the faint figures glimpsed on the walls, the ghostly soldiers remind us that duty and loyalty can endure beyond time itself. Not all of Edinburgh Castle's legends are tied to soldiers or prisoners. One of the more unusual stories involves a ghostly dog, said to roam the ancient cemetery within the castle grounds. This burial place was once reserved for the beloved pets of soldiers and officers stationed at the fortress. For generations, loyal companions were laid to rest there, creating a space of both affection and mourning. Over time, visitors began reporting sightings of a small dog darting among the headstones. Its outline appears pale, almost transparent, and it vanishes whenever someone approaches. Some have even described hearing faint barking in the still night air, though no living animal was near. Unlike many of the castle's darker tales, the phantom dog is often seen as a gentler reminder of loyalty and the bond between humans and their animals, persisting even beyond life. But while the story of the dog brings a softer note, the experiences of tourists in other parts of the castle are far less comforting. Those who join ghost tours often leave with stories of sensations they cannot explain. Sudden cold spots are among the most common pockets of icy air in otherwise warm rooms, chilling enough to raise goosebumps. Guests describe the temperature shift as sharp and unnatural, as if walking through an invisible wall of frost. Some guides suggest these cold spots are where spirits pass close by, brushing the living world with their presence. Others recount the feeling of being touched, lightly on the arm or shoulder, even when no one was near. The touch is never forceful, but the shock of it in the quiet dark is enough to leave hearts racing. One visitor recalled turning quickly after feeling a hand on their sleeve, only to find the corridor empty. Another swore they felt the tug of fingers brushing against their coat, though no member of the group had been close enough. Strange lights also feature heavily in these accounts. Photographs sometimes reveal orbs of brightness or misty shapes hovering in rooms or tunnels. Visitors often see faint flickers of light in the corner of their eyes, only to vanish when they turn to look directly. Some compare the effect to lanterns or torches being carried through the darkness, except there are no torches, and no carriers. What makes these experiences so powerful is not only their frequency but also the reactions they inspire. Tourists who begin their visits as skeptics often leave with a new respect for the castle's mysteries. Guides speak of nervous laughter turning into uneasy silence, as groups walk through chambers heavy with atmosphere. Many return home with stories that they retell for years, moments that cannot be explained but are never forgotten. And so Edinburgh Castle remains one of Europe's most fascinating destinations, not only for its rich history but also for the sense of the unknown that hangs in its air. Millions of visitors come each year to marvel at the crown jewels, the great halls, and the sweeping views of the city. Yet for many, the true allure lies in the stories whispered through its walls, the ghostly drummer boy, the lingering prisoners, the phantom guards, and even the spectral dog roaming quietly among the stones. It is this blend of history and mystery that gives the castle its unique power. Standing on Castle Rock, one feels not only the weight of centuries of politics and war but also the echoes of lives long gone, still weaving their presence into the present. Whether one believes in spirits or not, there is no denying the aura of the place. Edinburgh Castle is both a monument to Scotland's proud past and a stage where legend and the supernatural continue to play out. For those who enter, it offers more than history, it offers an experience that chills, fascinates, and lingers in memory long after the visit ends. And so, our journey through the walls, tunnels, and legends of Edinburgh Castle comes to an end. From the lonely drummer boy whose beats still echo in the night, to the loyal phantom dog quietly roaming among the gravestones, and to the countless whispers of prisoners and soldiers who once called this place home, each story adds another layer to a fortress already rich with history. The castle is not just a monument of stone and battles. It is a living archive of emotions, triumphs, and tragedies that seem to linger in the very air. Standing on Castle Rock, gazing over the city lights below, one cannot help but feel the blending of past and present. The chill in the wind carries more than cold, it carries memory. Whether or not the spirits are real, they continue to captivate our imagination, reminding us that history is not always silent. It can still speak, still reach out, still make us pause and wonder what lies just beyond the veil of the known. Perhaps that is the true power of Edinburgh Castle. It invites us to reflect not only on the legacy of kings and queens, but also on the countless lives whose stories rarely make it into books. Soldiers standing guard, prisoners who suffered, children who played, and even the loyal companions laid to rest. Their presence lingers in the legends, giving the fortress its unique aura. As we leave the castle gates tonight, the echoes of its past remain with us. Maybe you will carry the sound of distant drumming in your mind, or imagine a shadow standing watch upon the wall. Maybe you will feel the quiet companionship of the phantom dog walking silently beside you. Or maybe you will simply remember the feeling of being in a place where history and mystery walk hand in hand. Thank you for joining this journey into the heart of Scotland's most famous fortress. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden stories and legends of Edinburgh Castle, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next adventure. Because this is only one of many tales waiting to be told. Across Europe and beyond, countless places hold secrets in their stones, stories whispered through time, waiting for us to uncover them together. So until next time, keep your curiosity alive, keep your imagination open, and remember the past is never as far away as it seems. I will see you in our next story.